Brett was downstairs on the couch crashing out. Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. My name is Janae, if you didn't know, and today's video is another true crime episode. So if you're ready, let's go. Alright y'all, so these are the same nails that I showed y'all in the last video. And yeah, we really don't got nothing to talk about besides the fact that we back in our natural habitat and all's well that ends well. So yeah, let's go ahead and get right into today's case. And if you've been here for the past couple of weeks now, then y'all already know that we are going from the peaks to the valleys of America in alphabetical order. So from Alabama to Wyoming, and today we are in the state of Kansas. So it's shortly before 4 a.m. on April 30th, 2011 in Kingman, Kansas, when 911 gets a phone call about a house fire. And the caller is obviously frantic and they are demanding that firefighters get there right away. So firefighters rush to the scene of the house fire, and when they get there, they learn that the house that's on fire belongs to married couple Brett and Vashti Seacat. And Brett and Vashti were high school sweethearts, and it was said that it was technically like love at first sight, but Vashti made Brett pursue her. So she was interested in him too, but she was like, yeah, my love ain't about to come easy. You're gonna have to work for this. And Brett did. He did most of the pursuing. And when he finally did snag her, sparks flew everywhere. There was no back it up terrier, none of that. It was full force ahead. And post high school, the two of them stayed together and ended up getting married on the sandy, beautiful beaches of Belize with their close family and friends right beside them. And it was off to happily ever after. Now, not too long after the love and the marriage came their first baby in a baby carriage. And it was a little baby boy who they named Brendan. And according to Vashti's sister, she said that while Vashti was pregnant, Brett treated her like a queen. He waited on her hand and foot. He catered to her every craving. And y'all know that them pregnancy hormones, if you're a parent, if you've ever been pregnant before, y'all know that them pregnancy hormones, they something else. But Brett took it all in stride. He absolutely doted on Vashti while she was pregnant. He wanted her to be her best self and nothing less than happy while she was carrying his baby. But once Vashti gave birth, Brett's behavior towards her totally changed. She did a full 180 and he started treating her less than stellar, let's just say. But despite his poor treatment of Vashti, Brett was actually a great dad. And it's just something about seeing your husband be the best dad ever to your kid that will make a person overlook the less than stellar treatment that they're getting from their husband. I don't know, it just makes it a little bit easier to put up with the not so great husband qualities because he makes up for it being such a great dad. And this is the mentality that Vashti had towards Brett. She was like, okay, maybe he be saying some foul ass shit to me, but he is amazing to Brendan. And also, seeing as how there was never really any physical abuse noted by her friends and family and never discussed by her, maybe she didn't feel as though she was in an abusive relationship. Maybe she didn't recognize it at that time, because sometimes if the abuse isn't physical, it's hard to recognize. And maybe that was the case for Vashti. But like I said, she absolutely loved seeing her husband be a good daddy, and that tickled a little something in her heart and her coochie too. Because a couple of months after Brendan was born, Vashti was pregnant with baby number 2. And this was another bouncing baby boy who they decided to name Bronson. And once Brett found out that Vashti was pregnant with Bronson, the queen treatment started all over again. He doted on her hand and foot. He catered to her every need. He treated her like an Egyptian goddess while she was pregnant. And this also could be a reason why Vashti didn't realize maybe that she was being verbally abused, seeing as how it would be followed up by 9 months of princess treatment. So I want to say, in a sense, it might have given her false hope that he was a good guy. But yeah, false hope it was, because as soon as baby Bronson was born, the not so stellar poor husband treatment returned. And despite him being an excellent dad to his 2 boys, his marriage to Vashti kept going downhill. But Vashti wanted this to be her forever marriage. She really wanted to give their love another chance. Sis said, let's start So in an effort to give their love its wings, Vashti signed them up for marriage counseling. And in November of 2010, they started seeing a clinical social worker named Connie Suderman. And over the course of a year, Connie would see them both together and individually. So some sessions would be with Brett and Vashti, some sessions would be with just Vashti, and then other sessions would be with just Brett. And throughout the year of seeing Vashti, Connie said that she saw Vashti go from being sad and symptomatic of depression to feeling happy and hopeful. Connie pretty much said that Vashti was doing better and feeling better too. And with doing better and feeling better on the inside, Vashti wanted to look just as good as she felt on the outside. And so she started working on her physical appearance. She started eating better. She started exercising. And she slowly started getting back to the old Vashti. The Vashti that her friends and family knew. The smiley, happy, energetic, adventurous Vashti. She started doing stuff that she used to like to do. She started doing new stuff. She was just smiling more, laughing more. And she was just overall better. And in one of her sessions, she even told Connie that she felt better than she had in years. So sis was looking good. She was feeling good. She was like, Brett, what are you bringing to the table? But as good as she was feeling and as happy as she was, the same couldn't be said for their marriage. And by April of 2011, the marriage had reached its breaking point for Vashti. And at this point, she was just ready to call it quits because she was like, well, I tried. I done put us in counseling. I'm feeling better. I'm looking better. I'm doing better. But for some reason, you not, and neither is this marriage. So Vashti called it off. And so in the last week of April 2011, Vashti ended up filing for divorce from Brett. Now, her and Brett was still living in the same house after she filed for divorce. However, they wasn't sleeping together. They wasn't sleeping in the same bed. Brett would sleep downstairs on the couch and Vashti would take the room. She said, I might be about to lose my husband, but I'm not about to lose no good sleep. And while Vashti was upstairs in the bed, feeling good and sleeping good, Brett was downstairs on the couch crashing out. And as if Vashti filing for divorce from him wasn't bad enough, he get hit with another blow because in the early morning hours of April 30th, 2011, Brett got to rush out the house and call the police because his house is on fire. However, he knew that this house fire wasn't an accident, which is evident by what he said on the 911 call. He told the dispatcher, like, look, my house is on fire and my wife is inside. However, she did not die from this fire. She shot herself before she set the house on fire. Or she set the house on fire and then shot herself. Either way, she died from a gunshot wound. She didn't die from the fire. And he also told the dispatcher that he was about to try to run back in the house to see if maybe he could potentially save his wife because that's his wife. He got to go try to save her. And on the call, you can kind of hear what sounds like him trying to go back into the house to save Vashti or to get Vashti. But the fire was too intense and he wasn't able to go back inside. But luckily though, before the fire got too out of hand and before he called 911, he was able to grab his 2- and 4-year-old sons and get them out of the house safely. And when firefighters got there, the boys were safely tucked away in Vashti's car and Brett was, you know, at the curb freaking out. Unfortunately though, the fire was so intense that it took the firefighters 3 hours to put the fire out. So even if Vashti had survived her gunshot wound, there would have been no way that she survived the fire. And after 3 hours of putting the fire out and then another couple of hours of waiting for the structure to cool down, investigators were able to enter the home and they did find Vashti in the master bedroom, deceased on the bed. And underneath her body, they found a Ruger Red Hawk 44 caliber revolver. Now, even though this was an apparent successful suicide, investigators could not initially determine Vashti's cause of death just by looking at her, seeing as how her body was so badly burned. And her body was sent to the coroner's office for an autopsy. And while they awaited the results, they wanted to talk to Brett because what the fuck just happened? Now, mind you, investigators have to be thoughtful because not only did this man just lose his wife, but they're also questioning a former Sedgwick County Sheriff's deputy. And he was currently a police instructor at Kansas Law Enforcement Training Center. So yeah, they started real simple by asking him what happened. And according to Brett, while he was asleep on the couch, he got a call from Vashti, who was upstairs in the master bedroom. And on this phone call, Vashti pretty much told him to get the kids and get out because I'm about to end it all. Now, I'm paraphrasing, but that was basically the gist of the phone call, according to Brett. So hearing Vashti say this obviously stuns him, and he runs upstairs to see what the hell is she talking about. And when he gets upstairs, he sees a fire, and his first reaction was to run to Vashti. So he runs to her, he grabs her, and when he does, he said that her head kind of fell back, and that's when it hit him. The boom that he heard after she called him was her shooting herself. So now he like, look, I can't save you for real, so let me go grab the kids. And that's when he ran down the hallway and grabbed Brendan and Bronson and rushed them outside and called the police. Now, there were little pieces of Brett's story that just didn't make sense to the investigators, but they just went with it for the time being because they didn't really have anything else to say that what he said was false. That is until they got the coroner's report back. And the coroner's report said that Vashti suffered one gunshot wound to the head, which was indeed her cause of death. But she also had gunshot wounds to her hips, thighs, and her torso area. But these were not direct shots fired at her. These were actually caused by shots cooking off due to the heat of the fire. And they also said that her lungs showed no signs of smoke inhalation. And there were also no drugs or alcohol in her system. But based off of everything that they found, the coroner could not conclude if her manner of death was murder or suicide. And so the investigation continued. And during the course of their continued investigation, investigators found Vashti's journal in her car. And the journal was opened to the last page, which was like a little weird, but whatever. And on that last page, there were like mini notes to people, and they were one paragraph each, and each paragraph pretty much explained her exit and her sorrow to the person who she was directing the paragraph to. Now, although that journal entry gave all indication that Vashti did this intentionally and this was of her own doing, investigators still wanted to talk to the people who she was closest to pretty much see her mindset, to see what was going on in her life at this time. And what they found out was that despite what Brett had told them, which was that Vashti was severely depressed, everybody else said that Vashti, she had been sad in the past, and she had been, I guess, depressed in a sense, or just very down at one point in her life. The weeks leading up to her death, she was the complete opposite. She was happy. She was vibrant. She was all of the things that I explained to you earlier. She was going back to the old Vashti. She was smiling. She was laughing. She was doing new things. She was being adventurous again. And it was just a stark contrast as to what Brett had said. And so hearing these two contrasting views of Vashti, they wanted to talk to the person who they felt that Vashti would have been the most vulnerable with, and that was Connie, her therapist. And Connie told the investigators that Vashti told her that she was dealing with the separation and the divorce very well. However, Brett, on the other hand, was the one who was having issues with it. He just wasn't handling it well at all. And she said that Vashti told her about a dream that Brett told Vashti that he had had. And in this dream, Brett told Vashti that he killed her. So yeah, that was a little alarming. And investigators also learned that April 29th was the day that Brett opened the divorce papers. And on that day, Brett found an old ass projector, and I'm talking one of those projectors that, I don't know how old y'all are who watch this video, but I'm talking one of those projectors that your teacher would use to like put a little piece of laminate paper on and, you know, show the screen. You know, do y'all know what I'm talking about? Anyways, Brett found one of these projectors at his job, and he locked himself in his office for about an hour with said projector. Now, this might seem a little irrelevant now, or maybe you clocked what I clocked when I heard that, but it's gonna come back up in a second. But anyways, on April 29th, he also burnt a couple computer hard drives and threw them away. And later on that afternoon, he had went to go get some gas, but not for his car. He went and got it in a gas can. He wasn't out of gas because he was at the gas station with the car. So a case is slowly but surely building up against Brett. And on top of all of the things that didn't make sense and his suspicious activity on the day prior to Vashti's death, investigators were able to talk to a neighbor who said they couldn't sleep that night. So from the night of the 29th into the morning of the 30th, this neighbor said that they couldn't sleep. They were just up watching TV. And while they was watching TV, they heard what they thought was a gunshot. But they wasn't really sure, so they really didn't think too much of it. And based off of what this neighbor said that they was watching and what part of the program it was on, it was determined that they heard the gunshot at about 3:15 a.m. Now, remember, I told y'all that it was shortly before 4 a.m. when this 911 call came in about the house fire. So it was like 3:45, 3:50-ish. So if the gunshot happened at 3:15 and the phone call happened at 3:45, 3:50, why it took you that long to call 911, Brett? And it's at this point that the family and the police are both convinced that Brett is the reason why Vashti is no longer alive. This is not a... This was a murder. Especially because Vashti's family said that there was absolutely no way she would commit, even if she was depressed, because she did not want to leave her children. So now with all of this evidence and witness statements against him, Brett is arrested on May 13th, 2011 and is charged with first-degree premeditated murder, aggravated arson, and 2 counts of child endangerment. And Brett said he didn't do none of that, so he took this to trial. And during this trial, the prosecution theorized that Brett wasn't too excited about being served divorce papers by Vashti. He wasn't taking this news well at all. And so he plotted and planned Vashti's murder and tried to make it look like a suicide. And he used the fact that she had been depressed in the past to kind of make it seem like this would be something that she would do. And he also used that projector to trace her handwriting, to make it look like she was writing these notes when she really wasn't. It was him kind of forging her writing. And forging these notes is what he was doing when he was locked in the room for that hour with that projector. They said that he shot her while she was sleeping and then used her phone to call himself to make it look like Vashti had called him and told him that she was about to end it all. And then he set the house on fire, grabbed the kids, and left. And the prosecution even called in a handwriting expert who said that there were hesitation marks in these final writings in the journal, and that it wasn't smooth and it didn't look like, and basically it was forged is what I'm trying to say. His defense, however, said that nah, Vashti was depressed, she didn't want to get divorced, and she pretty much ended it all herself. And they too called the handwriting expert to the stand, who said that yeah, there are hesitation marks, but this could be consistent with someone who is nervous, like they about to end their own lives, and so they not writing in the way that they would normally write. They kind of like hesitant about it. But ultimately, the jury agreed with the prosecution and found Brett guilty, and he was sentenced to life with the possibility of parole after 25 years for the murder, 61 months, which is roughly 5 years for the arson, and 14 months for the child endangerment charges, 7 months each. And this was all to be served consecutively. Now, for their kids, Brendan and Bronson, they are now being raised by Vashti's sister and her husband with the help of the rest of Vashti's family. And they are really also victims in this case too, because not only did they lose their mom to their dad, but they also lost their dad to the system. And for the life of me, Jesus, I will never understand how people choose to take their children's other parent away without thinking that they might get caught. Like, they don't even be thinking about that being a possibility. So now your kid's just out here with no mom and no dad. People like this get on my damn nerves. Anyway, y'all, that is all I have for today's case. Thank you so very much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you all for the next one when we are in Kentucky. And when they get there, they find out that this house, So firefighters rush to the scene, and once they get there, they do what? And according to Vashti's sister, That double S is kicking your ass. They started seeing a clinical social worker named Connie Spellman. No, her name is not Spellman. Suderman. And throughout the year of seeing Vashti, Connie said that she saw Vashti go from being oh my God, it's a fire. And he also told but luckily though, before the fire got too out of hand and before he what girl. And they also found a Ruger Red Hawk 44 caliber pistol. Oh, it's a revolver. Damn. At the Kansas law what? And the prosecution even called in a handwriting expert